Hey everybody, good morning. It is Doc with you here at Ready Set Trade. Today is Friday the 24th of March, and we have a full-fledged crisis on our hands going on right now. We have the Treasury versus the Fed, and they keep talking past each other. Nobody seems to know what's going on. And we saw just massive volatility over the last 2 days between the Fed day and then the day after. We're seeing 100-point ranges in the S&P. So this obviously is going to change how we trade short term until this sort of stabilizes. Let's take a look and see what's going on today. So today, the big event is not necessarily durable goods, which has already come out, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. So durable goods, we have James Bullard speaking at 9:30. He has moved the market in the past and can be an agitator for the market. He is Mr. 50 basis points a month ago. So he's where things started to unravel back in early to mid-February, where we had a nice rally off the bottom to start the year, and then James 50 basis points Bullard comes out and says, oh, I can't wait to hike again. And so it's since that point, it's been kind of unstable in the markets. And so he has a chance to flip-flop once more, because right now, as you'll see in a minute, it doesn't look like, it looks like we may have seen our last rate hike for quite some time, quite honestly. All right, so durable goods, let me see what that comes in at. Oh, yeah. The worm is turning here. So durable goods, we're starting to see the effects of all this stuff. So we're going to have CPI and PPI numbers plunging, I think, in the near future. PCE is probably going to drop next week. We'll see. I mean, this is going to, we may not even get to May 4th before the Fed is cutting. We'll have to see. But right now, durable goods, new orders was supposed to be up 1.5%. So we actually dropped a full percent. So we're starting to see the worm turning here. Starting to see the worm turning. We have also PMI composite flash will come out at 9:42. And I don't know how long Bullard is going to speak. I'll keep an eye on things in my news feed over here, and I'll look for big red things in my news feed to see if anything is happening. Okay, so Fed is out of quiet period. Fed's out of the quiet period, so we can expect to see them agitate the market from now on. Not much in the way of earnings. Here is what I was talking about. Right now, there's a 71% chance of no rate hike whatsoever in May, and this will change between now and then. It may even change by next week. And also, by the time we get to June, there's a 60% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut. Can you believe it? 13 December, we're looking at 100 basis points rate cut. What does that tell you? So we could have a quick rally based on the Fed pivoting. But then I think the concern is that the landing will not be soft. We might see a quick opportunity to make some money to the upside, but I think the landing may not be soft. We may go into a double dip, and we finally get our capitulation for the bear market. So next week we'll be here Monday through Friday, 9:20 to 10:05. Good Friday. 2 weeks from today is the next holiday. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you out there. We got Len, we got John. Good to see you guys checking out things on a Friday here. So let's get into the charts. Let's see what we can do with this monster of a market. Right now, looking at today's implied volatility and expected move, we have a plus and minus 43 handle expected move. So we're expecting big volatility between now and the end of the day. So once again, I was in the mode the last couple of weeks of like, hey, we're going to play the iron fly out to the stops if we put one on. Now, I don't want to see the price outside the opening range again. If we decide to take a trade, we want to see if we can keep the price inside the opening range. If it starts to go outside, we want to get out of that trade. So we'll take a look at things here in a minute. We got about 4 minutes to go for the opening bell, and we will size up an iron fly, and we'll start to see some volatility. Now, let's get into yesterday. Let's see what happened yesterday. So yesterday, as we sat here, we had the Fed day, and then we started to gap up from the Fed day. The blue line here is the anchored VWAP that I've got on the intraday tick chart. So that shows dynamic support and resistance intraday. So it's the average weighted volume profile. So as you can see, we started to trade above the VWAP. We started to go above the opening range. All of this implies that we're probably going higher on the day. Okay, so let's kind of expand this out. And so we got to 10:05. We bounced, and I said, no bueno. We got no iron fly entry for today. Too much of a trend day. Hey, Alex, good morning. Too much of a trend day today, or yesterday. So we walked away from that one, and I talked about a potential fade of either the upper or lower expected move. I mean, we cut right through that upper expected move. That was extremely strong yesterday. And then things started to fall apart. First of all, we traded underneath the expected move. Then we bounced. We initially bounced, and this is important. We bounced at the anchored VWAP, bounced up, made a lower low. So if you didn't want to necessarily create a call broken wing butterfly or some kind of bearish trade at the fade of the upper expected move, I mean, who could blame you? Things were so strong. Although you can put on a trend line. If you break a trend line and you start to trade below an important level like that, that could be grounds for entering a short trade. Okay, so that all is happening around 12:30 or so Eastern time. And then what happened from there was it just got worse and worse and worse, right? So we came down into the opening range, did not bounce past the top of the opening range, and then lost it to the downside. In fact, we went below the lower expected move, not once but twice. I think this was a reaction to Yellen saying, hey, we'll do whatever we need to backstop the banks. And maybe again. But right now, the market is just left reeling. It doesn't know who to believe or whom to trust at this point. It has no idea. There's so much uncertainty out there right now. And that's why we're sitting with a 43-point expected move. We got 1 minute left to go. So we'll see. We'll see if we've got something to work with today. But and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset. I'm going to re-anchor the VWAP to today. So we're going to change that to 24. So that'll start to anchor itself as soon as we get an opening print today. All right. So there we go. We got 25 seconds left to go, and so I'm going to start to get ready here. Right now, 42.75. Wait for the opening bell. We'll track that in our sheet. Yesterday was 33.29, so you can see how things have changed since yesterday. Okay, here we go. Here's our opening bell. So 42.65. 42.65 is our opening expected move. All right. And what I need to do now is go figure out what the opening print is on the ES through the gap chart. See if there's any gaps today. I think there are. We have a relatively small gap. So yesterday's gap got destroyed. Let's get rid of that. No longer exists. And let's go draw in today's gap, and we'll keep an eye on that one as well, too. So that's going to, I mentioned that yesterday. I was like, I don't like the fact that we're drawing, we've already got a big gap to the upside. And that at some point is going to be of interest to traders. And it was. It took all of 3 hours for that to become of interest. Okay, so today's opening print for the ES is an integer. Must be living, right? It's a Friday, 39.63. We're back in the 3900s. 39.63. Now, when we combine that with an expected move of 42.65, we have an upper expected move of 4,565. Wow, we're going to have a lot of things firing today. Okay, so let's bring this down. So our upper expected move is going to get moved down to 4,005.65. That's on the ES. And then the lower expected move, we're going to move this bad boy down to 3920.35. Okay, so there we go. There is today's kind of everything here. There's the upper expected move for today, which is close to, it's actually well below yesterday's highs, that's for sure. We have our lower expected move. Now let's go over to the gap chart again. Let's see if these map out with anything. Not really. You can see the upper and lower expected moves kind of in the middle of the range that we've been in since the bottom back there on 310. So for about the last week and a half or so. Or that's actually 2 weeks ago. So 310 was about 2 weeks ago. We bounced since that point. And we've gotten a big range of 38.40 or so, all the way up to 40.80. So big range, big move in the last week or so. Let's go look at the fractals for a second. Let's see the bigger term picture of what's happening here. Great, big, choppy area. This is going to break at some point, and it's going to be a mammoth move. It could go either way. What I'm thinking is that we may initially break to the upside, pull everybody in, and then we get our final capitulation move. So it could be a really difficult year if that plays out like that. Now, we have a lot of chop in various markets here. The daily chart has still got a fair amount of energy, as does the weekly chart. Now, the weekly chart is starting to make lower highs and lower lows. And that's an ugly candle that we have for the weekly chart at this point. So keep an eye on that one. That is not particularly great to see that. Okay, so I'm going to go and look at putting on an iron fly here in a minute. Or at least in the analyzer. Okay, so we're going to use 24 March options. They expire today. We're going to get rid of yesterday's. 29 March. Don't know what that is. Okay, so we're going to center this maybe around, at this point, 39.35. And we're going to analyze selling an iron condor. So we're going to mate these two strikes right at the money or slightly above where the current price is. And then we're going to go out. At this point, we're seeing the expected move drop pretty quickly. So I'm going to make this only 40 points for right now. Normally I do this 45 because it's up to the next level, up to the next strike price width. But I think we're going to drop below 40 here fairly soon. Now, Bullard is talking, and I don't see anything coming in from him yet. So maybe he's just taking one for the team today. Or maybe he hasn't started talking yet. Okay, so we're going to got 40 points here. So 39.35, that's going to be 39.75 for the long call. And 35 minus 40 points is going to be 38.95 for the long put. That gives us a credit of about $27. And there is today's potential trade. Now, we'll keep centering this as we go on here. And so far, we've gotten a little bit of a bias to the downside. We'll look at market internals in a second. We've got about a 14-point wide opening range. I'd like to see this at least 20 to 25 points to give us room to center the trade in here. Scott is asking, how again did you reset the VWAP to today? And so now remember, I've got something, it's a slightly different. If I look up here at studies, I'm going to edit studies and then go into the anchored VWAP, and I'm going to show you the code here. So this one is slightly different than the one that's in the general studies because it's got these two factors in it. So you're actually inputting anchor date, anchor time. So unless you copy the one that I sent out the last couple of days, yours will not have that. So the anchored VWAP, if I just go over to the anchored VWAP through, I can go to studies, I can edit studies and do this, go over to the gear, and then the inputs are right here, the anchor date. So I have to change that anchor date. And I'm always going to keep the anchor time at 9:30. And that's all that is necessary to do. All right, let's go over to Market Watch. Let's see what's moving here today. The NASDAQ, we do have, let's see, China, gaming stocks, and Netflix and stuff like that. I guess they figure people are going to be home, not wanting to leave the house anytime soon here. We have about 7 to 3 Central Time. Yeah, so just set it for 8:30. Okay, so let's go over to our sectors. Sectors are generally negative, although staples and utilities are up. That's a very defensive move. The VIX is up today. Energy, financials. We actually have communications up today, believe it or not. And who's leading the charge? Could be Meta. Google, no. Let's see, Charter, no. So it's got to be Meta. Interesting. Let's see what internals look like so far today. Not as bad as I would have thought. Advancers minus decliners, negative 280. Could be a lot worse. The worst could be negative 500. We almost got there on Fed Day. At the end of Fed Day, we were down negative 485, and that's typically a swing trade entry when you get close to that. When we get single-digit advancers, we have potential swing entry if we're out of a bear. And I'm not sure that we're out of one just yet. Okay, price is generally below the anchored VWAP this morning so far. Let's see how this trade's doing. We're getting a little bit of time decay, and we are seeing, yeah, we've dropped under 40 now for the expected move. So we've got one report coming up at 9:42 to 9:45, and then after that, we may be in business. I don't see anything coming from James Bullard. On Friday morning, Yellen will convene a closed meeting of the Financial Stability Oversight Council. The FSOC. Oh no, not the FSOC. So we still have our downside gap from today. That has not been closed yet. Internals are starting to turn slightly more positive. Internals starting to slip. this by itself, down 23 handles, considering the backdrop of what's going on, is actually a moral victory so far. Money markets fully price a 25 basis point rate cut by June. So I would imagine mortgage rates are going down. Mortgage rates may be going down. Gold continues to, it's actually stalled out today. It looks like it's strong, but it's actually stalled out today. Let's see where silver's going. Silver has gapped up today, but it looks like an exhaustion gap almost. A little island gap up there. I want to see something else here. So if we look at let's look at the 2-year note. 2-year note continues to go lower. All right, so that's at 3.6. And let's see what the 10-year note is. So 3.6. 10-year note is 3.3. So that really bad inversion is getting a little bit better than we had. So 10-year notes should be technically higher interest rate than 2-year notes. And this is the really, really big inversion up until recently. The beginning of March, we had the 2-year note up at 5%. And now it's only paying, 3.6%. All right, futures getting worse. Everything has been below the anchored VWAP for today. Now, what's interesting about the anchored VWAP for the S&P is yesterday was a really important pinch day. Hey, Juan, good morning. Yesterday was an important pinch day. So we have these important anchors. So this high was an anchor. You can see the anchored VWAP to that. Dynamic resistance. Price came right up to that level yesterday. Here is the anchor from the December lows. Or actually, no, the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year, here's the anchored VWAP from the beginning of the year. Also about the same price rejected from there yesterday. Here's the anchor from the low back in October, the current major low. Back in October, price is now down below there. So that should be support, and the price is down below there right now. So this was a kind of a pinch where we had the price in between all these different VWAPs. And it's much like a squeeze. You can see it either take off above or below. Now, I think there's a good possibility that we get something like this where we drop, maybe even just intraday today. Okay. We got something coming in. PMI flash, actual 53.8, forecast 50. I still see nothing from Bullard. So I don't know if he's decided not to talk. No, I do see something now. Inflation remains too high. U.S. data is stronger than expected. It's not uncommon for some businesses to fail to adapt to changing financial conditions. Thanks, Jimmy. Inflation expectations are relatively low, which bodes well for disinflation this year. So really, Bullard had nothing to say today. Bullard had nothing to say. Okay, so we've expanded the opening range quite nicely now. So it's about 20 points. It's about 20 points, and this is kind of what I was looking for here. Now, can we get the price to come back up here into the range? And then we've got something to work with. You can see we are getting some time decay today. Not a tremendous amount, but it is there. And the price, this is why we don't do things first thing in the morning, because you just get so much potential movement with today's market. We want to make sure that this is showing us a good, solid range-bound day. So far, it's not. It's been a trend day to the downside. We could potentially have a setup down here for mean reversion back up, and that would be done through a broken wing butterfly. So again, let's talk about that one for a second. If we want to put one on, now this is not the right place to put one on. I'd want to put one on as it bounces away from the expected move. But if we were to put one on, we could do so. We'd want to use a put, and we'd start off by identifying what option is closest to the 35 delta. Let's take this 36 delta here, and we're going to analyze buying a butterfly. We'll buy a butterfly, and then we're going to take the most out of the money option, which is the 38.90, and we're going to push it down one more, and that gives us a credit. And this is what it looks like. So we get a credit, and you can see that credit here of $1.50. And what it also gives us is kind of room to be wrong with the trade. So it's obviously a bullish trade. We want the price to go mean revert back up to the middle of the range and maybe close the gap today. So that's where we, if we get into this thing and it just starts heading higher, then we can set up our target to earn $50, $60, $75 a contract, whatever we want. And then, that'll take us maybe, depending on how fast it moves, anywhere from half an hour to maybe an hour or so. And then we're out. Now, if the price goes lower, is there a stop? That depends on you. And what I found is I'm not going to use a stop on these. If I get a move that's all the way down to the lower expected move, and if there's some kind of confluence down there, then I'm going to use that as the R value. I've seen this so many times where the price will go down, spelunking down here, and then eventually return back at the end of the day. And it gets into this range, and this range here, I'll outline it like this. This range here is where, you look at this potential profit peak, and you're not going to get that until 3:59 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. But you will start to pick up some gains from that in the last hour. So that's where that helps, is if you get a last hour rally that puts the price back into that range. That actually will help you get out of the trade faster. What was the name of the VWAP book you showed us yesterday? That is this one by Brian Shannon. Anchored VWAP by Brian Shannon. So it's a hardback. I wish they'd make it a paperback, but anyway, it's well done. The only thing I think it's missing is, I wish it had a bit more application, like, hey, this is how to set up Thinkorswim, or here's the study for Thinkorswim, or here's how I set it up in TC2000, or here's how I set it up in TrendSpider, those kind of things. So that I've had to kind of figure out myself, and I'm sort of doing this on the fly, but it's a simple concept. It is a simple concept. Anchored volume weighted average price. There we go. Okay, so here we go. We're going back into the center of the range again, which is good. That's what I want to see. Back in the center of the range. And this is almost where we want to be locating the trade. We may have to recenter it. We'll see. So what I want to see right now, the way things are, we're seeing lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. So there's nothing that I've seen yet to show me that price wants to rebound from here, especially with the price below the VWAP. I would assume that the next move would be to the downside, right? Now, if it starts to break through that, then it's showing me a change in pattern. It's showing me a change in pattern. If it starts making higher highs and higher lows. Now, the internals are starting to turn around. The worm is turning slightly here, and we're starting to see some positive ticks coming in, which is good. So we're starting to see some corroborating evidence that the price is getting somewhere. But again, there's the rejection at the VWAP. So we'll just kind of, I'm tempted because we're close to the middle third. I'm tempted to enter early. But what I don't want to do at this point is enter early and see this thing just puke again to the downside, which is what it should do. It should continue to go to the downside. Now, the different behavior would be if it starts to trade above that anchored VWAP. Okay, so now here's the moment of truth. Is it going to start to trade above that? Is it going to start to take out this lower high and start to trend above that? And that means something. And then maybe we've got something to work with. Then it's going to maybe go after this gap. So a little bit of patience is all we need here. Let's see if anything else has come across the wire. Maybe somebody will write an article for TA of stocks and commodities. Normally, each charting program provides the means to add the study. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now this is a good thing here. We're getting the price to pop above the VWAP. You know, guys, the VWAP has been around for decades. It's been around for decades, and the only reason that I'm adding it right now is, well, I read the book, number one. Number two is it gives me a sense, it's a simple way to determine dynamically what support and resistance is. And from what I'm hearing, at least based on what's in the book, is that institutions will use the VWAP in terms of trying to get, because they're always trying to, right, if they've got 1 million shares to sell, they're not going to dump out 1 million shares. What they're going to do is they're going to say, all right, we want to shed ourselves of 1 million shares of, NVIDIA or something like that. Can we make sure that if we're selling these, that we get a price above the average volume weighted price? That would be the goal for their perspective. Or if they're buying, let's say they want to buy 1 million shares of AMD. Hey, we want to get 1 million shares of AMD, but we'd like to get a price that's below the anchored VWAP, wherever you decide that anchor is. Okay, we're closing in. We may be good to go here today. Maybe good to go here today. Now that the market internals are getting a little frisky. We're starting to see a change in behavior here. I think it's coming after the gap. More comments from James Ballard. SVB is a very unusual case with few other banks in a similar situation. So far, markets have given the Credit Suisse deal a thumbs up. People should keep in mind that there are numerous macro prudential tools at our disposal. Oh, okay. What does that mean? So I guess what he's trying to do is trying to instill confidence. So Ballard was sent out with the mission of instilling confidence. Like Jim, whatever you do, don't say anything about 50 basis points. I could see that conversation with Powell. Like, James, don't do it. Well, John, what I'll probably end up doing is this is week number 1 of me using this thing, and I've already found it to be useful. But as I continue to look for to ways to bring this on board, I will certainly write up something in the platform, and then you'll see an anchor to that. So something else, like if you look at this, probably a little known feature that probably nobody knows about is if you go into Elite Inner Circle, and if you go to search on something, just go in like a hashtag. And if you search on anchored VWAP, you can see that, hey, we talked about this in Doc's Live Trading Room, Wednesday the 22nd. And there's another comment here from Steve yesterday. So there's, you can search on stuff. So if you want to search for, say like broken wing butterfly. Here's an article here from a month ago about a broken wing butterfly setup. And also you can go over to the 10X Tribe courses. And I don't think I have these hashtagged yet. Let's see if I don't have them hashtagged yet, but you can find stuff. So I'll continue to do that and tag stuff as I go through and build things. But it's pretty cool. Yeah, I used to get that article a long time ago, or I used to get that magazine a long time ago, John. And I think I had like a 5-year subscription to it or something like that. And I've got a pile of them somewhere. I'll have to look. I probably do have some articles already in my pile. I just don't know how to find them. I'd have to just manually flip through. But if I do find something, I'll let you guys know. Or if you find something, let me know, and I'll see if I can apply it towards what we do here. Okay, so we now have about the same. It's bigger. It's almost, let's see, 37 to 64, 20 year. Wow. Yeah, I wrote one article for them back in, God, it was like 2011 or 2012 on fractal energies. And you'd be surprised how many people like found my phone number and were like calling me up in the middle of the day. Okay, so 24 plus 3. So we got about a 27-point opening range, and that's good. That's good. All right, so here's 10 o'clock. We had 10 o'clock. So what I want is for the price to be near the middle third of the opening range. Now, where would we center this thing? Oh, it looks like we're moving. We're moving fast. It's going for the gap fill. So we'd have to see this thing pull down a little bit for me to take this. And I'm being so uber conservative these days just because we're seeing these, massive moves like yesterday. I mean, if we had entered an iron fly yesterday, we would have been run over. Unless you just, go to sleep and just let it, come back in the range, which, could have happened. But I don't like to do it that way. Okay, so we're above the middle third right now, so I've got no signal. And it looks like we are increasing. The market internals are starting to turn up quite a bit. So I don't know if it's Sir James Ballard has goosed the market. Let me see if there's anything else that he said here. Today's situation is vastly different from that of 2007 to 2009. Yeah, no kidding. So he's much more, Ballard is much more playing the game today. A month ago, he was the home wrecker. And today, I think he's been coached to settle everything down. I mean, they have no room for rogue agents right now. They have no room for, rogue Fed presidents scaring the market, because you can see one Fed president, even a non-voting member, taking down the entire financial system today, dropping the S&P down 200 points based on, oh no, we're going to keep on raising rates. Right now, the market's expectation is no interest rate hike next month, or actually it's the month after, into the first week of May. No interest rate hike May 4th. All right. Well, guys, I don't have a signal right now. Now, if this wanders down into the middle of the opening range in the next few minutes and does so in a very genteel fashion, I'll consider doing an entry. And it may yet be the same exact. Look at this. We set this thing up how long ago? And it's barely decayed at all. It's barely decayed. I mean, we're still at a 37-point expected move. So yeah, I see the price coming after the gap today. I wouldn't be surprised to see it come after the gap. But we're still down to 19 handles, 18, 19 handles. So is that going to happen today? Don't know. Yeah, like I said, guys, if I see something here in the next few minutes, I'll send out, I will send out a trade update in the platform. It will show up over here in the Elite Inner Circle. You'll see this posted in here. And also what I'll do is I'll hashtag it with open and close trades. So you can go up here and you can search for all the elite elite open and close trades. You can see everything that we've done as long as I've been tagging these things. All right, guys. I will let you know. I mean, we're close. I want to see how the price comes down to here. I want to see it kind of hold at that anchored VWAP now that it's above it. We'll see if it does that. So if you don't see anything from me in the next 5 minutes, so I've given up. I've run out of patience. Thanks, everybody. You guys have a great weekend. Let's see if we survive through this administration. Thanks, everybody. You guys take care. Have a great weekend. See you Monday.